Hey, good morning, church. Hope you're doing great. July 24th, Zephaniah chapter 2. This morning, let's just focus our brains right now on the things of the Lord. So I don't know what you got today, but we all got stuff we got to do and stuff that's lined up for us. So let's just take a moment. Chapter 2 of Zephaniah says, "Gather yourselves together. Yes, gather together, O undesirable nation." Talking about Israel, right? Kind of in that husband-wife relationship. "Before the decree is issued, or the day passes like chaff, before the Lord's fierce anger comes upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger comes upon you. Seek the Lord, all you meek of the earth, who have upheld his justice. Seek righteousness, seek humility. It may be that you may be hidden in the day of the Lord's anger." Really cool section, right? One part really alludes to the book of Revelation and talks about something that's in chapter 12 of that book. That section that says, "It may be to you hidden in the day of the Lord's anger." You get the idea that there's going to be a time of God's wrath or his judgment on not just Israel, but on the nations around her, right? And it talks about that, but hey, maybe that you will be hidden. There will be a place of escape. So read chapter 12 of Revelation again, and you'll see that, hey, God's got a door open, a place of hiding, and for the people of Israel. Not only that, but if you read again, we started Zephaniah with chapter 26. I think it was verse 18, 19, somewhere in there. It talks about the Lord hiding his people as well. And remember what Zephaniah means. The Lord what? Hides, or the Lord protects. So, but look at this, like when God's anger comes against Israel, and there's something that really God gives him some instruction on, and that's in verse 3 that I really just want to hone in on this morning. "Seek the Lord, all you meek of the earth." What does that sound like? Seek the Lord, all you meek of the earth. Is there anything that sounds like in your Bible? Maybe you guys coming up with anything? You guys thinking through it? Is there anything there? "Blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth." Very interesting, huh? That here you see that same phrase being used. Seek the Lord, all you meek of the earth. And Jesus hones in on this in his ministry. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. And so everything you see in the New Testament, almost God, it's amazing how much I have studied it over the years, and it's just, there's so many quotes from the Old Testament, it's unreal. Seek the Lord, all you meek of the earth. So this morning, meekness. Focus on meekness today. What is meekness? Well, a lot of times we've heard it being spoken of as power or strength under control. So it's not that kind of power or strength that just kind of explodes, right? So it's not quick to wrath, but it is slow to speak, right? Quick to listen, and again, slow to that wrath. So it doesn't just explode. The person who's meek is not just someone who uses any kind of ability, so any kind of their power or strength, whether that is an intellectual strength or a physical strength or a monetary strength, just to get over on other people. And so it's something that it's a control of all these areas. So think of being controlled in your anger and with your mouth. Think of having control of that area. Did Jesus have control of that area? Yeah. You look at Jesus's life, and he said the things that needed to be said when they needed to be said. And that's what we need as well, is that kind of control of our mouth. How about intellectual control? Meaning Jesus had all the power to be able to intellectually challenge people on every subject, but yet he did not do that. There was all this intellectual might right there. Could have debated anybody. But yet that's not how he rolled. And so what he did with his intellectual ability is he tempered that with who he was talking to. So he might talk differently to the Pharisees than he did to the woman at the well. And so we see that we need to temper our intellectual arguments, or the things that are in our minds. We need to be able to read a situation and then go, hey, this situation calls for this. And so this is the kind of approach I'm going to go to now. So it really thinks through things. A person who's meek is, again, that there's that control part of the intellectual ability that you might have. But it also might be something else. It might be, that you have a ton of money. You've been blessed financially. You've worked hard, however you got it. And now meekness is using that properly. And in not just using all that power and just going crazy with it, right? Doing things that are irresponsible with it. Things that would be deemed, of course, totally foolish or just out of control. But instead, a meek heart is someone who's going to want to make sure that they're doing the right thing with those kind of things. Not boisterous about it either. Not just flaunting those kind of things, right? Strength under control. Blessed are the meek. So what areas do we need to work on, in being meek? You might want to write a list out. And it's always great to just get a piece of paper and just write out things that you need to work on with that. God, I tend to burst out too much in anger here. I tend to talk about people far too much. I tend to talk about them in judgment ways far too much. That might be a way that you're not meek. You're pushing things way too far. You're getting out of your bounds, where God is the judge. God will judge that person. Maybe you're thinking too highly of yourself. And that's what we're doing, is we're puffing up ourselves. We're trying to make ourselves feel better, and that's not being meek either. And so, sometimes just getting out a piece of paper and writing things down, I tend to, when I get a piece of paper and I start writing things about me, I tend to be more honest on the paper than just when I assess it in the mind. And I tend to put things down and I tend to look at it and just go, wow, these are areas that I need to work on. Lord, help me to not use what you've given me and to use it in a bad way, in a wrong way. Help me to be in control of those things that you've given me. And self-control is definitely a fruit of the Spirit. So when we think of meekness, strength under control, right? Power under control, you can always relate it to the fruit of the Spirit as being in control. So, and that takes a lot of discernment, right? The next line just says, you who have upheld his justice, meaning we've looked at God's word and we've honored that word. Meaning we've said, yes, God's ways are the right ways, his justice, right? And it says we seek righteousness and seek humility. Those that are seeking the right things, seeking humility. So these are all things that we can have in our minds and start working on, right? Looking at being meek of the earth. Blessed are the meek, right? Looking at God's justice. Looking at God's ways and saying, yeah, your ways are right. And seeking righteousness, seeking a right standing with God. God, help me to have that right standing with you. And then it says seek humility, right? In order to seek God's justice, in order to seek righteousness, in order to seek that meekness too, there needs to have that humility, right? And that means coming underneath, that humility of just saying, hey, Lord, you know what? I need to listen to you today and not so much of me. So whatever you have going on in your life, all the different things and all the crazy stuff that we go on in a day, and it seems kind of busy and it seems sometimes hectic and out of control, really, all we can do is work on us before the Lord in a day. That's all we really got, and that's really what we need to focus on. And that's what God's calling his people to do in Zephaniah. He says, just come to me, seek, I'm going to look for the meek of the earth, those that are seeking justice, those that are seeking righteousness, those that are seeking humility. And so that's what God desires, right? He has shown thee, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of thee, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God, right? I remember singing that song all the time, and you probably do too. But there's so much truth in that, right? So seek these things. And when we mean by seeking them this morning, I mean, do that inventory that you need to do. Ask God for these things. Write them down. Get out your little dictionary and sometimes just look up words and make sure you go, oh, okay, I kind of know what meekness is now. Or, hey, I know what justice is now. Or, hey, I know what righteousness is now and humility is now. And you look at that and you assess your own world and you assess your life. And then come to God with that list that you made, of some of the defects that you got going on, and go, Lord, help me with this. Strengthen me in these areas. So even though you could, you have all this power to push yourself forward, meekness is always, being in control and saying, hey, maybe I don't need to go that direction. Maybe I need to put someone else up and I need to sit back. Jesus was the perfect one at doing that, man. He would raise up other people and, he could have done everything. He could have been the guy who did everything, right? But he didn't. And he saw a joy in seeing others do things too. And what a meek heart, right? All that strength, all that power, but under control. Always discerning, always thinking of God, always wanting to be humble before the Lord, those kind of things. So if you find yourself really frustrated, try to get your mind off of everybody else and just focus on your walk with God. Just that today. You have a walk with God today, and you are accountable to that walk. And so just focus on that throughout the day. Whatever happens when you're talking to your kids, you're talking to your spouse, or you're dealing with financial issues or whatever it is, just have the Lord before you in the day. So you guys have a good one, okay? And I'm going to do the same today by God's grace alone. So you guys have a great one, okay? Bye-bye.